Thank you for having me here today. Thank you to staff as well. Just a couple of points. One point, I'm a little bit disappointed that we're voting on a lot of the changes prior to public input. Often changes have been delayed until after public input sessions, and then council votes on them. That way, public has an opportunity to speak prior to voting. Just a note for next time. Perhaps you forgot.
No, if I can just indicate the process is, we are going to review it all again when we get to the end.
Thank you.
Just anything that needs to be eliminated now has been eliminated, and we'll get a second look at the total thing and the total amounts at the end.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I am appreciative of the snow clearing for bus stops. I'd like to add that if it's something to look at and consider as well, and I have brought this up to a couple of councillors, that when we're looking at snow clearing, that we again look at multi-use paths. Multi-use paths, if we're looking at our climate action plan, and we're looking at wanting to be a walkable, bikeable city, especially for seasons, that they are looked at as a priority. I know that a lot of our multi-use paths are not cleared in a basis that is fairly timely, and if people are looking to use those to commute and move about, they're not really being cleared in the same manner. And I know that transportation on roadways are important for people, but so are multi-use pathways if we're trying to promote those. In the same way as there's a reason why, of course, that we're trying to clear all bus stops, because not everybody moves in the same manner. And I would also like to indicate that it's really important for those that are seniors or have mobility issues that we look at doing some changes within our core with sidewalks and with our letdowns that are close to the road, so that people can actually move without getting into slush and ice, and maybe look at changing our bylaws in our BIA 1 and 2 zones. It would also help our businesses, I think, too, and this is something maybe the DVA could be consulted on and looked at, to trying to get that snow cleared, maybe not after 24 hours, because sometimes businesses are closed on the holidays and weekends, Sundays and Mondays, and it's difficult for those to walk in those areas, and if they have scooters or walkers, to get in those areas, and it's problematic and has been for a number of years. And making sure that snow is cleared all the way to the edge of the sidewalk, because I know that some with businesses with overhangs are not clearing all the way as well. So maybe some proactive things with bylaw. It could be proactive in those areas versus reactive, something along those lines. I noticed in the
Counselor?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah.
So just in terms of, this would be for James. So is there like, I know that we are increasing sidewalk widths like we did on 32nd in front of my building, and I know some of the downtown areas when we've done the revitalization of the blocks, the sidewalks have gotten wider. Is there a requirement for business owners to clear all the way from the face of building to backside of curb? Or is it just to provide, when you're snow clearing, a width, like a width for walking?
Mr. Rice?
Your worship, that's actually a really good question. My first response would be, it would be curb to back a sidewalk to curb, but I think I need to confirm that with bylaw.
Okay, because if you wouldn't mind, because I'll bring that up with the DVA.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because I think if the expectation is for people to be parking, they need to be able to move from a parking spot all the way to the door. And part of the issue is, of course, with plowing, you end up the same thing with bus stops, is you're ending up with plow rows, and people with mobility issues often are still driving or walking, and they can't get through those big berms. And people with mobility placards aren't necessarily just parking at mobility spaces, because if you have a placard, you can park anywhere, and some with the city stickers are not going to just park at the handicap stalls. They're going to park elsewhere. And I, for one, is a big proponent of doing business downtown in our local area, and I want to make sure that our businesses are being able to be gone to at all times of year. And I think finding a way to make this work with the DVA, and in a way that's also not going to be a burden on our downtown businesses, would be wonderful. And so maybe there's a program they can work out with Venture, or perhaps in the same way that our you know, Folks on Spokes program is working. In some way, there can be a partnership where maybe they can take on the shoveling in a partnership or something might be a plan to look at.
I'd just like to have Mr. Rice address the issue of the multi-use paths. I noticed myself that we've had an increase in number of machines. Where does that sit on our priority list?
So, Your Worship, paved multi-use trails are the same priority as our concrete sidewalks that we maintain within the city. So they are done as a priority one sidewalk, and it would depend on the level of snow. So typically on a normal snowfall, it would be done within 24 hours. Having said that, right now we do not do weekend or holiday response. So if you end up with a snowfall Friday evening, it could potentially sit there for a number of days.
Right.
So just an update on that, since I live in the Landing, that is an increase in service that we've seen over the last few years. With the addition of equipment, I now physically see the multi-use path coming in from Okanagan Landing being done quite promptly, which in the
Right.
past was not.
Right, whereas I get differing reports from people where they're, and where we're seeing varying levels of service. So just something to consider, so.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that. The other thing is I know that there's a couple of lake boat launches that are going to be done in 2023. And I know that there's one on 8835 Okanagan Landing Road that's had a problem with it. And I know that part of the issue that is going on, you know, it's going to be dealt with, but I'm wondering if the actual cause of the water coming down from above is actually is going to be dealt with before it's actually fixed, because that seems to be more of the problem that I'm seeing anyway, because of stuff that's above, because that road tends to be flooded a lot in the spring area and other ways going on, and I'm sure that that some of council that travels that road can attest to that as well. So I'm just wondering if that's going to be dealt with prior to the boat launch being fixed.
If it's okay, I'll ask Mr. Duhaniak to address that. That's a long-term storm issue. Mr. Duhaniak.
Your Worship, that's correct, that we've been working on that drainage file for more than 5 years. So we're working with the local residents just to establish a drainage right-of-way so we can deal with that issue. So there's a couple different options that we've been working on, and we continue to work with them.
So just a point of clarification, the boat launch repair, and Mr. Rice could probably speak to it, is about the physical stuff in the water at the nose of the concrete, which we had inspected. If I'm correct, we've had it inspected, and that's why we closed it, that's the actual nose of the boat launch. Mr. Rice, can you just give us an update on that? Oh, we have Ms. Croy behind, thank you. Manager Transportation, Ms. Croy.
Your Worship, the portion of the boat launch within the water is the piece that will be replaced. I'm not aware of the damage being related to drainage issues in the area, but that is still the replacement is still subject to the environmental permitting obtained from the province.
Thank you. And have we got some of that in place? Do we have a lease, et cetera, now?
The Crown Land tenure is in place, but the Section 11 approval is ongoing.
Thank you. Go ahead, continue.
Nope, that's good. I'll probably have some more this afternoon.
Thank you.